There's something unfolding in Jerusalem right now that will completely transform how you understand what we're witnessing in our lifetime. I need to walk you through what archaeologists just uncovered in the city of David, because what they discovered wasn't just ancient stone and pottery. Friend, what emerged from beneath Jerusalem's ancient soil connects directly to words written by prophets over 2,700 years ago. Most people scrolling past headlines about Israel have completely missed what's actually developing. But what I'm about to share with you carries weight that extends far beyond archaeological significance. We're watching prophecy transition from ancient text into documented reality, and this window of recognition won't remain open indefinitely. Consider this. While excavation teams were working adjacent to the Temple Mount in recent months, they uncovered evidence of a defensive moat that protected biblical Jerusalem's northern boundary. This wasn't just any discovery. What makes this extraordinary is how it confirms the exact layout described in ancient prophetic texts about Jerusalem's restoration and protection. I want you to see something that shifts everything. The prophets spoke about Jerusalem being established, protected, and ultimately becoming the focal point of world attention. What's remarkable here is that we're no longer discussing theoretical fulfillment. We're examining physical evidence emerging from the earth itself. Stay with me through what I'm about to reveal. Once you grasp the connection between what's being uncovered in Jerusalem and what was written centuries before, there's no going back to seeing current events as random occurrences. What's essential to grasp here is the context of where this discovery occurred. The city of David sits on a ridge extending southward from the Temple Mount, the exact location where ancient Jerusalem's kings ruled and where the first temple once stood. Archaeologists working in this area during 2024 uncovered something that had remained hidden for nearly 3 millennia. Picture this: excavation teams working in what's known as the Javati parking lot, right next to the old city walls, began revealing a massive defensive moat. This wasn't a small trench. We're talking about a fortification that literally split the ancient city in half, separating the palace complex and Temple Mount from the rest of Jerusalem. What I discovered when researching this will reshape your perspective on how prophecy works. This moat solved a 150-year-old archaeological mystery about how biblical Jerusalem was actually protected. British archaeologist Kathleen Kenyon theorized this northern defense existed, but physical evidence remained elusive until now. Consider what the prophet Zechariah wrote about Jerusalem's future. Jerusalem will be inhabited as villages without walls because of the multitude of people and livestock in it. And I will be to her a wall of fire all around, declares the Lord, and I will be the glory in her midst. Zechariah 2 verses 4-5. The prophets understood Jerusalem would need supernatural protection because natural defenses would ultimately prove insufficient. What's remarkable here is recognizing that every stone uncovered in Jerusalem tells part of a larger story. This moat protected kings like Hezekiah and Josiah, leaders who walked through periods of both divine blessing and prophetic warning. The physical remains we're examining today stood witness to prophecies being declared, judgments being pronounced, and promises being given. This is where the significance deepens. We're not just looking at ancient history. We're examining the foundation upon which future prophetic fulfillment will rest. Let me walk you through something remarkable that most people overlook when reading prophetic texts. The prophet Ezekiel, writing during the Babylonian exile around 586 BCE, received detailed visions about Jerusalem's future restoration. In Ezekiel 37 verse 21, God declares, I will take the people of Israel from the nations among which they have gone, and will gather them from all around, and bring them to their own land. Understand what makes this prophecy extraordinary. When Ezekiel wrote these words, Jerusalem lay in ruins. The temple had been destroyed. The city walls were broken down. The population was scattered across Babylon. Yet the prophet described a future where Israel would return, rebuild, and be re-established in their land. What emerged in 1948 fulfilled the first stage of this prophecy. On May 14th of that year, Israel declared independence after nearly 2,000 years of dispersion. This wasn't a gradual cultural evolution. This was a nation reborn in a single day, exactly as Isaiah 66 verse 8 described. Who has heard such a thing? Who has seen such things? Can a land be born in one day? Can a nation be brought forth in a moment? Focus your attention on what happened next. The establishment of modern Israel set the stage for archaeological discoveries that would confirm the biblical narrative. Every excavation in Jerusalem, every artifact uncovered, every ancient seal discovered adds another piece to the prophetic puzzle. What I'm about to show you will deepen your understanding of how these discoveries connect. The Temple Mount Sifting Project has been processing soil that was illegally removed from the Temple Mount in 1999. Since 2004, volunteers have been carefully sifting through this ancient earth, recovering thousands of artifacts spanning 3,000 years of Jerusalem's history. This discovery reshapes our understanding of how prophecy unfolds. We're not waiting for signs to appear. We're watching them emerge from the ground itself, confirming what the prophets declared would happen. This is where the narrative shifts into something deeply personal. Among the artifacts recovered from Temple Mount soil, archaeologists discovered an ancient seal dating to the late First Temple period, approximately the late 7th to early 6th century BCE. This small clay impression bears Hebrew writing in a style used during the time of King Josiah. Imagine holding an object that was pressed into clay by someone's hand 2,600 years ago. Picture the individual who used this seal, perhaps a royal official working in the administrative chambers near the temple. This person lived during the final decades before Jerusalem's destruction, when prophets like Jeremiah were warning about coming judgment while also promising future restoration. What makes this significant is the timing. This seal comes from an era when prophecies about both destruction and restoration were being actively declared. Jeremiah 31 verse 10 records God's promise, "He who scattered Israel will gather him, and will keep him as a shepherd keeps his flock." The person who used this seal might have heard these very words being proclaimed in Jerusalem streets. Consider what this reveals about God's attention to detail. Every artifact, every inscription, every fragment of ancient life preserved in Jerusalem's soil serves as a witness to the accuracy of prophetic scripture. We're not dealing with vague predictions that could mean anything. We're examining specific, verifiable evidence that aligns with precise prophetic declarations. I want you to reflect on something profound. The same God who preserved this seal through 26 centuries of turmoil, conquest, and destruction is the same God who preserved the Jewish people through their long exile and brought them back to their land exactly as promised. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "The prophecies are being fulfilled." Your voice matters in this conversation about what God is doing. Watch what emerges when we examine this closer. The discoveries aren't slowing down. They're accelerating. What I discovered next will challenge everything you thought you knew about ancient resistance movements. Near the southwestern corner of the Temple Mount, in the Jerusalem Archaeological Garden, researchers found a rare bronze coin from the Second Temple era. Engraved in Hebrew, it bears the inscription, "For the redemption of Zion." Let that phrase settle deep. For the redemption of Zion. This wasn't Roman currency. This wasn't a coin minted by an occupying power. This was struck by Jewish rebels who understood they were fighting for something far greater than political freedom. They were fighting for the fulfillment of promises made by prophets centuries earlier. Reflect on what this reveals about the mindset of first-century Jews. They knew their scriptures. They knew the prophecies about Jerusalem's restoration. They knew God had promised to redeem Zion. When they minted coins declaring this truth, they were making a theological statement about their identity and destiny. What's remarkable here is recognizing the thread connecting ancient rebels to modern reality. Those first-century Jews couldn't have imagined that their nation would be destroyed again, that their people would be scattered for 2 millennia, and that Jerusalem would pass through the hands of Romans, Byzantines, Muslims, Crusaders, Ottomans, and British before returning to Jewish sovereignty. Yet here we are. Jerusalem is once again under Jewish control. The ancient coins declaring redemption for Zion have been discovered and displayed just as Israel celebrates decades of restored independence. The prophets who promised gathering and restoration have been proven accurate. Consider the weight of Zechariah 12 verse 3. On that day I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all the peoples. All who lift it will surely hurt themselves, and all the nations of the earth will gather against it. We're watching this prophecy manifest in real time as Jerusalem remains the most contested piece of real estate on earth. This next piece transforms the entire picture. The archaeological evidence keeps mounting, but something even more significant is developing. Focus your attention on the pattern emerging from these discoveries. Every artifact uncovered in Jerusalem fits into a larger prophetic framework that spans thousands of years. We're not looking at random historical finds. We're examining evidence of a divine plan unfolding exactly as predicted. What emerged from the Temple Mount sifting project includes pottery fragments, coins, jewelry, weapon points, and architectural elements spanning from the First Temple period through Ottoman times. Each layer of soil tells part of Jerusalem's story: Babylonian destruction, Persian restoration, Herodian expansion, Roman siege, and ultimately modern rediscovery. Let me share something that carries profound weight. The prophet Daniel, writing during the Babylonian exile, received precise visions about Jerusalem's future. Daniel 12 verse 4 records God telling him, "But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." Understand what makes our era unique. We're living in a time of unprecedented access to information. Archaeological discoveries that once took decades to reach public awareness now spread globally within hours. Ancient texts are available at our fingertips. Satellite imagery reveals hidden structures beneath Jerusalem's surface. We're watching knowledge increase exactly as Daniel prophesied. What I needed to verify multiple times before sharing is the acceleration of prophetic fulfillment. Israel's re-establishment in 1948 wasn't the end of the prophetic timeline. It was the beginning. Since then, we've witnessed Jerusalem reunified under Jewish control in 1967, archaeological confirmation of biblical accounts, and growing international focus on this tiny piece of land. This revelation demands your careful consideration. The pattern is clear. Prophecy declared, time passes, fulfillment occurs, evidence emerges. We're not hoping for future validation of Scripture. We're examining current confirmation of ancient predictions. I want you to see where this leads. The same prophetic pattern that brought Israel back to their land has implications for what comes next. This is where we must recognize what these discoveries reveal about the nature of prophetic fulfillment. When archaeologists uncover a seal from King Josiah's era or a coin declaring Zion's redemption, they're not just finding interesting historical artifacts. They're providing physical confirmation of the biblical narrative that forms the foundation of prophetic scripture. You're witnessing something we cannot ignore. The prophet Isaiah declared in chapter 62, verses 6 and 7, "On your walls, O Jerusalem, I have set watchmen. All the day and all the night they shall never be silent. You who put the Lord in remembrance, take no rest, and give him no rest until he establishes Jerusalem and makes it a praise in the earth." Consider what's happening right now. Christians around the world are watching Israel with unprecedented attention. Ministries focused on biblical prophecy are analyzing every development in Jerusalem. Believers are praying for Israel's peace and protection. The watchmen Isaiah described are actively fulfilling their role in our generation. What makes this moment extraordinary is the convergence of multiple prophetic elements. We have Israel restored as a nation. We have Jerusalem under Jewish sovereignty. We have archaeological discoveries confirming biblical accuracy. We have international attention focused on this small nation. We have knowledge increasing at an exponential rate. We have technology enabling global awareness of events in real time. Reflect on what Jesus said in Luke 21 verse 24, "Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled." This prophecy was fulfilled in 1967 when Israel recaptured Jerusalem's Old City during the Six-Day War. For the first time in nearly 2,000 years, Jerusalem was no longer under Gentile control. If you want to continue discovering these connections, subscribe now. Each new video brings revelations that can strengthen your understanding of current times. This moment requires our full awareness. What unfolds next depends on grasping the significance of what we're witnessing. Let me show you what's taking place in Israel before this window closes. The prophetic timeline isn't moving at the pace most people assume. Events that scholars once believed would take decades to unfold are happening in years or even months. The acceleration is undeniable. What I'm about to reveal carries weight beyond archaeological interest. In July 2024, excavations in the city of David solved a 150-year-old mystery about Jerusalem's northern defenses. This wasn't coincidental timing. The same year witnessed unprecedented developments in Israel's military victories, treaty negotiations, and regional positioning. Consider the broader pattern. Israel's establishment in 1948 began the prophetic clock. Jerusalem's reunification in 1967 advanced it significantly. Recent peace agreements between Israel and Arab nations, conflicts with surrounding enemies, and archaeological confirmations are all pieces of a rapidly developing prophetic picture. What emerged next challenged everything previously understood about the pace of fulfillment. The prophet Joel declared in chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, "For behold, in those days and at that time, when I restore the fortunes of Judah and Jerusalem, I will gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat." You're watching this prophecy move toward fulfillment. International organizations constantly focus on Israel. Nations gather to discuss Jerusalem's status. The Valley of Jehoshaphat, located between Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives, has become a focal point of prophetic expectation. What's happening now accelerates everything. Archaeological discoveries provide evidence. Political developments align with predictions. Technological advances enable global awareness. Military conflicts mirror prophetic descriptions. Natural signs increasingly match biblical warnings. This discovery from Jerusalem will shift your perspective on timing. We're not looking at distant future events. We're examining present-day developments that directly connect to prophecies written millennia ago. If this perspective is expanding your vision, leave your like. This helps others access these important discoveries. Your awareness of this carries more weight than you realize. What I discovered in Jerusalem is something you absolutely need to understand. The Temple Mount isn't just a historical site or a religious landmark. It's the geographic and prophetic epicenter of God's plan for humanity's future. Every artifact recovered from its soil, every stone in its ancient walls, every discovery in its vicinity speaks to this central role. Picture what archaeologists have found in recent years. Ancient seals bearing Hebrew names from the First Temple period. Coins minted by Jewish rebels declaring redemption. Pottery fragments from the time of Solomon's Temple. Architectural elements from Herod's expansion. Each item recovered adds testimony to Jerusalem's continuous significance across millennia. What makes this significant is understanding what the prophets declared about the Temple Mount's future. Zechariah 14 verse 4 provides a specific, verifiable prediction. On that day his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives that lies before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west by a very wide valley. Let that image settle in your mind. The prophet describes the Messiah's return to a specific location, the Mount of Olives, directly facing the Temple Mount. This isn't vague symbolism. This is precise geographical prophecy about where history's climactic moment will occur. Consider what this means for every discovery in Jerusalem. The moat protecting ancient kings, the seal from Josiah's era, the coin declaring Zion's redemption, the pottery from Solomon's time. All of these artifacts come from the exact location where prophecy declares the most significant events in human history will unfold. This demands your thoughtful attention right now. While the world debates politics and peace plans, while media focuses on conflicts and controversies, prophecy students understand that Jerusalem's true significance transcends current events. The city is being prepared for its ultimate role as the throne of the Messiah. What unfolds next depends on whether we recognize what's actually happening. The archaeological discoveries aren't random. They're purposeful confirmations emerging at the exact moment when the prophetic timeline is accelerating. Friend, we've reached the moment where recognition becomes decision. Everything I've walked you through, the moat discovery, the ancient seal, the redemption coin, the prophetic timeline, the Temple Mount significance, all of it points to one undeniable reality. We're living in the generation witnessing prophecy transition from text to reality. Consider where you stand in this moment. You have access to information previous generations couldn't imagine. You can see archaeological discoveries hours after they're announced. You can read prophetic scriptures and immediately compare them to current events. You can watch developments in Jerusalem in real time from anywhere on earth. What's remarkable here is that this access comes with responsibility. Jesus spoke about the importance of recognizing prophetic seasons. In Matthew 24 verses 32 to 33, he said, "From the fig tree learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts out its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see all these things, you know that he is near at the very gates." The fig tree represents Israel. The branch becoming tender represents the nation's restoration. The leaves appearing represent signs of life and growth. We're watching this metaphor become reality as archaeological discoveries, political developments, and prophetic alignments multiply in our time. I want you to reflect on what this awareness demands. If we're truly living in prophetic times, if the evidence mounting in Jerusalem genuinely confirms ancient predictions, if the timeline is actually accelerating toward fulfillment, then how should we respond? The prophet Daniel was told to seal up his visions until the time of the end. We're living in an era when those seals are being opened, when understanding is increasing, when connections between ancient prophecy and current reality are becoming undeniable. Share your perspective in the comments. The prophecies are being fulfilled, and let's continue this journey together in the next video. The awareness you've gained today positions you to understand what's coming next. Don't let this moment pass without acting on what you now know. There's something I need you to grasp as we close. The centuries-old prophecies being fulfilled in Jerusalem aren't just historical curiosities or interesting biblical studies. They're signposts marking humanity's approach to the most significant era in history. Every artifact emerging from Jerusalem's soil, every prophecy finding current fulfillment, every development in Israel's story adds confirmation to what the prophets declared. God keeps his promises. What he said would happen is happening. What he promised is being fulfilled. Consider the invitation this presents. If prophecy is proving accurate about Israel's restoration, Jerusalem's significance, and the timing of events, then we can trust what Scripture says about everything else, about redemption, about the Messiah's return, about eternal promises, about your personal destiny. The same God who scattered Israel and brought them back, who preserved ancient artifacts through millennia and allowed them to be discovered in our generation, who declared through prophets what would happen and is now bringing it to pass. This God is inviting you into relationship with him. The archaeological discoveries in Jerusalem aren't just confirming old texts. They're revealing an active, engaged God who works through history to accomplish his purposes. And his ultimate purpose is redemption, for Israel, for Jerusalem, and for you. Share your perspective. The prophecies are being fulfilled, and let's continue this journey together in the next video.